Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my May reading wrap up. It's like a week into June already, but that's okay. We're just gonna get into it. And I'm consulting my reading journal, which is so fun that I have that. And if you want to see me doing that, you should go check out my doing book stuff video because I did a whole 2024 yearly spread in that video. So in May, I read 8 books and I DNF'd 1. I read 3 YA books, one of them being romance, one of them being fantasy, and one of them being sci-fi. And then I read 1 thriller and 4 just regular romance books. Just as a refresher, I'll put up on the screen my May TBR. And then I will tell you that I read 3 books on my May TBR and I DNF'd 1. The book that I DNF'd was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I don't know how to feel about this book because I did get like 100 pages into it and I just couldn't connect to the writing because it's so like YA and it feels like very YA, and I just don't think I was in the mood for this book when I picked it up. And I think that if I picked it up at a later date when I was in the mood for a book like this, I would totally eat it up because I watched the show and I know that I like it, and I think I read this book before but I don't entirely remember it, if that makes sense. Like, I think I read it years ago on my iPad when I was reading books on my iPad, like not the physical book, and I remember giving it like 4 stars. So I feel like I definitely want to go back to this, but as of right now I DNF'd it. The first book I read was Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This was supposed to be my April book club book with my sister, but we didn't finish it in April, so we extended it into May, and then I finished this in May. I gave this book 5 stars. I was very happy with this book club pick because I really did like this book. This is about a girl named Kazi, I think is how you say it, and she works for the queen and she's like part of the queen's guard. She's like the queen's closest confidant, and she goes to these other lands to catch someone, a criminal. She meets the prince there, and this is a romantasy, and it's very good. I feel like I'm not explaining it very well, but I don't want to give anything away, and I'm like afraid to give the plot away, so that's what I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna stick with it. But I gave this 5 stars. I absolutely loved this book. I loved the world building, like it was very easy to understand. I loved the characters. I loved the story. Like there were no really like dull parts in it. I feel like I didn't really get bored, and I feel like I enjoyed this book a lot more because I did annotate it and it was a book club book, so I was kind of like looking at it very closely. So it was a lot easier for me to like love this book, and I really did. And I like went out and bought the second one after I finished it, and I'm hoping to read it sometime soon because I did really love this book. The next book I read was The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This is a thriller. This is about a girl named Millie who works in this house. She like lives with this family and she cleans and she cooks, and she's basically like a nanny and a maid, and what else? What is the word that I'm looking for? I don't know. She's a housemaid. Like she's a live-in maid, and the woman who is her boss, basically like the mother in the house, there's something really off about her, and she's kind of very crazy, and everyone's like, wow, she's really crazy, and she just like makes messes and expects Millie to clean them up, and it's just a very odd household, and that's all I'm gonna say about it because I don't want to give it away. I gave this book 4 stars because I did think it was really good. It was really fast paced, it was very easy to read, and it was very interesting. Like there's a plot twist in here that I did not expect at all. I didn't see it coming. I thought it was very out of left field. Like I think about it now and I'm like, I didn't even see that coming. Like it's sometimes I read books and the plot twist and I'm like, I should have seen that coming, and I did not. So it was very good, and it's hard for me to like really enjoy these kind of shorter thriller books because you don't connect with the characters as much, and I did really enjoy this book and I thought it was really good, and it's honestly like a really easy read if you're looking for like a palate cleanser, I guess. I did really enjoy this book, and I really want to read the second one because I did think this was very good. The next book I read was Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. This book, let me just tell you, so good. Loved it. Like literally loved it. I cried at this book. I haven't cried from a book in so long, and I cried from this book and it was so good. It's like a childhood best friends to lovers. It kind of works the same way as like if you've ever read Happy Place by Emily Henry. You have like present chapters and then you have like past tense chapters, and the two characters in this book haven't talked in like 10 years or something like that, and you don't know why, and you're trying to figure out why the entire time, and you're very confused because they seem like they're so like happy, and then you get the now chapters and they're so like distant from each other, and it's just very interesting to read a book like that, and very like heartbreaking to get to know these characters and get into their relationship, and then it kind of like fall apart a little bit, and then when you see the reason why, it's just like very, I don't know. You get really into the characters in this book, and I definitely did, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It was very good. I want to read more of her books. I hear they're very good, but I don't know. This is the only one I've ever read, and I absolutely loved it. I don't know if this is like her best one or something, but I did really like it. There's a lot of like sad things that happen in this book, but there's also a lot of really happy things too, and I see a lot of people that cry like in the middle of this book, but I only really cried at the end. But I did cry. But yeah. 5 stars. I loved this book. Please go read this. I think it's a really good, sweet romance read, but it probably will make you cry. This is a very different kind of book. It's also a romance book, but this is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I know some people classify this as like a YA book, but I don't think it should be, so I'm not gonna classify it as that. This is about a girl named Shannon who's very Irish. I think they're all very Irish, and she's like really small, and she got bullied a lot by like everyone she's ever met, literally, and she transfers schools and she meets this guy named Johnny, and she's not getting bullied at this new school. Like, it's great for her and she's making friends, and it's a very good like high school romance, but it's not YA. I gave this a 4. Looking back, I'd probably give it like a 3.5 because it was like very Wattpad, and I think I was in the mood for that book at the time, so it wasn't bad, but it's also a really long book. Like this, I read it on the Kindle, but this one's 600 pages and the Kindle book is like 800. It is a very like Wattpad-y book, so I think that like you have to be in the mood for that if you want to read it, because it is written like a Wattpad book. I think this was on Wattpad and that's why it's written like that, but I don't know. I gave it a 4, so I'm going to stick to it. I probably did really enjoy it. If I were to read it right now, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much just because you have to be in the mood for this kind of book to read it, so. Then I read Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This was so good. I loved this. This is a kind of like high society romance, toxic romance book. It's supposed to be like Gossip Girl, but like if they were in London. And I do get that vibe from it, definitely, but I don't know. It's kind of like a second chance romance between characters Magnolia Parks and BJ Ballantyne. Yeah, that's his name. And you kind of get this like whole story about it, and I didn't love BJ the way that everyone loves BJ, so I don't like his name either, but I gave this a 4 just because, like I said, I didn't love him like everyone loves him, and I didn't love Magnolia, which I think you're not supposed to. I think they're supposed to be like very toxic characters, not super lovable, but I didn't cry from this book like I see everyone crying over this book, and I just think maybe that's because like I took breaks. I did annotate it, so I was like very into this book, but I just didn't cry. I don't know. I thought that like the ending was shocking. I just didn't think it was like cry-worthy shocking. Maybe because I just didn't connect to these characters. So I'm not a huge fan of the trope that's in this book. It's not like my most favorite book trope ever, so it was still a good book. And I just got Daisy Hates and I want to read it this month, so. Then I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This book was so good. I know I'm getting a good book when I read Emily Henry. I actually read the majority of this at the beach, so it just made it so much better. Like that much better. But it is about a girl named Nora who is just all about her job, books basically, because that is her job, and she's kind of a workaholic is how I would explain her, but she kind of has to be, so. And her sister Libby drags her to this town from one of the books that she helped publish. Is she a publisher? I don't even know what she is, but she ends up running into like her rival Charlie, and they end up like, it's a very good book. I don't know how else to explain it other than like she goes to town, she runs into Charlie, and they're there for a month. So you kind of find out a lot of things with them in here, and it's just a very good book. Like I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I loved this book. I think I've given every Emily Henry book that I've read 5 stars so far, and I'm reading Beach Read currently, so we'll see in my June wrap up if I loved that book as much as I've loved the other two that I read. After that, I read The Program by Suzanne Young. This is a YA sci-fi romance. Not sci-fi, it's dystopian. I keep saying sci-fi, but I meant like dystopian. They're kind of very similar to me, but I know they're different. I don't know what the difference is, but I know they're different. But this is about how like depression and suicide are epidemics in this kind of like dystopian society, and people that are depressed or have like sad thoughts and things like that get sent to the program to get like fixed, and it's kind of just about that. It's almost kind of about like soulmates in a sense, which I don't think, like when I hear people talking about this book, they don't really talk about that. I haven't seen a lot of people mentioning that, but I got like it was about soulmates because it is about like you finding people even though you don't remember them. You like finding your true loves even though you don't remember them. I gave this a 3.5. I read it very quickly. I think I read it in like a few hours, like over 2 days, and it was good and I enjoyed it, and I would probably read the second one, but I kind of just don't entirely remember what the book was about. I remember obviously like the most important parts, but I don't remember like the entire plot of this book, so it's not very like memorable. I wouldn't like recommend it to people saying that I loved this book, but it still was good. It was a nice read and it was an easy read, which is always good. And I love dystopian. I love a good dystopian book, so I want people to recommend them to me, and I want to find more of them because I feel like it's such a dying genre. I feel like people are just writing fantasy books, and I haven't seen any new like dystopian books. Obviously, like there's people who write very specific genres of books, and there's people who write dystopian books only, but they're not as popular. And I love them. I wish that it was a more popular genre for sure. So I did like this book, but it was a 3.5. The last book I read in May was Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I read this in one night. I started this at like midnight and finished it at like 3 o'clock in the morning. It was a very easy read. It's a very short book and it's YA romance. It's Ali Hazelwood's only YA book, and I love her. I love her as an author, and I loved this book. I gave this book a 4.5 just because I think that like the chess talk in this was kind of like a lot of chess, and I don't really understand chess, so it was just kind of like the parts when she was being like very descriptive about chess, I kind of like skimmed over them a little bit just because I was like, I don't understand. So I'm like, I'm trying to understand, but I really don't. But this is about Mallory, who thinks that chess literally ruined her life, and she gets thrown back into it and meets Nolan, who is this like notorious chess player, and he's really popular, and he's like supposed to be one of the best chess players in the world, and yeah, romance. That is all of the books that I read in the month of May. It wasn't that many, but it was also a good number. Like 8 books is a lot, and I would have read 9 if I didn't DNF Shadow and Bone, and I only didn't read 2 books on my TBR, so I was very proud of that, because I think the month before that I didn't read like any books on my TBR. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me talk about these books and giving my reviews of them. If you guys want to see me picking out my June TBR, you can go check that video out. It was very fun. I did it in a different way that I haven't done yet before, so that's really exciting. And like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.